Time now for the news, and in our first story, Special Prosecutor nominee Ejura Thursday appeared before Parliament's Appointment Committee as part of processes to succeed Martin Amidu, who resigned after 3 years in that office. He was quizzed on a number of issues, from succeeding Martin Amidu, the independence of his office, his anti-corruption strategies, and his involvement in the Jirapa mineral royalties deal. He told the committee, among others, he had no intention to fill the shoes of his predecessor.
You have been described in language that is not too palatable by the said former special prosecutor. Now, in it, he says that Mr. Ejura is a surrogate of a law firm. Then he goes on to further implicate you as one of the key architects of the botched Jirapa royalties transaction. Now, if you juxtapose these allegations with the role of special prosecutor as an entity that ought to be independent, you have your would-be predecessor, that is, if given the nod, describe you in such language. Honorable nominee, what is your take on this? Are you a surrogate of anybody?
Honorable Chair, then before I go on, there's one more disclosure that I have to make in respect of Honorable Member Bulsa North. I was actually the chairman at his wedding reception.
Chairman was right. That he almost said that, yes, I do, on your lips to us.
Honorable Chair, if I may answer. Whoever says I'm a surrogate of a law firm or implicates me in the Jirapa transaction clearly does not know me. Because if you know me, you wouldn't make such allegations. And so all these things that came up, I took it as coming from uninformed positions. Because I was not involved in the Jirapa transaction in any form or manner, by any stretch of the imagination, however fertile. As for relationships, as I just disclosed, the fact that I was so close to you at some point in our lives will not give you, or you not give me a free pass because of that relationship. And that is why I'm here. And if there is a matter, I'm not going to say because I know one person or the other, I'm going to give the person a free pass. I certainly will investigate. But the truth of the matter ought to be told. I wasn't involved in the deal. I was nowhere near it. Indeed, until it started coming up, I didn't even know what it was.
Meanwhile, Parliament's Appointment Committee has unanimously recommended the approval of Ejura as Special Prosecutor following his vetting on Thursday. The committee met soon after his 4-hour vetting, and all members decided to recommend him to the floor of the House for the necessary approval. Committee Chair Joe Owusu says the committee will submit its report to the House soon.
My committee's view is simply to recommend the House to approve the nomination or not. As to how other people value or view his answers, I'd rather leave it to them. I just stay within the rules and just make recommendations to the House.
We know you met in camera soon after. Has he been recommended by the committee for the necessary approval?
Yes, the committee unanimously agreed to recommend him to the House for approval.
Let's head to the Ashanti region now, where the family of the murdered social activist at Ejura says the victims of the June 29 violence must necessarily get the justice they deserve. The murder of Ibrahim Mohammed, also known as Kaka, sparked disturbances, leading to the killing of 2 people and injury of some 6 others last month. A 3-member committee set up by the Interior Minister to probe the disturbances in Ejura is expected to present its report to the government after it heard witnesses on the matter during a 12-day public sitting. Ohim Interior of our security desk has more.
The murder of Kaka Machu by unknown assailants on June 26, 2021 sparked further disturbances in the Ejura township. 2 people were killed in cold blood as irate youth protested the murder of Kaka, who was ambushed and attacked as he entered his Ejura Dagomba Line family house. The family of the slain fashion designer was among 22 witnesses who appeared before the Justice Kumsin Committee. Nafiu Mohammed is the spokesperson.
Based on the letter given to us, served by the Interior Minister, you realize that it was only talking about the circumstances that led to the shooting on the 29th. The murder of my brother is not part of their framework. It's not part of their work. But since there was a discussion within the limit of the Traditional Council and the Zongo chiefs for us to attend, we did attend and we also testified to the limit of the family.
The family says any financial compensation for the wife and children of the slain activists will be welcomed.
We are only seeking justice for those souls that have been lost and those injured. My junior brother who has been amputated and the other guy who has a bullet through his spine, who is still at Konfanochi, we need justice for them. Kakai's children also need justice, because I know it is the committee that will recommend any benefit. We are not interested in the monetary aspect of it. The value of Kakai's life is more to even any money you give it to us. Up to now, if we are not getting any help, we can still take care of the children. Only what we are seeking is justice for those children, those affected. Everybody has to be brought to book. You cannot just come face civilians who are unarmed. Any police, any military man should say that there was a shot from the crowd. It's quite disgusting, because there is no any video evidence showing that. For those military men who shot, actually they know those who shot, but by the description and the video Erastus brought out, there are people who aimed to the crowd to shoot. So those who shot, let's identify them, let's punish them.
Meanwhile, 3 suspects arrested in connection with the murder of Ibrahim Mohammed are expected to make their second appearance in court on Thursday. Fuseni Alasa Ebucha, Ibrahim Isaka, also known as Enyas, and Idi Mohammed, also known as Choboros, ticket seller and blacksmith respectively, were remanded into police custody on July 2, 2021. From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Ohim Interior reporting.
Back in Accra, the Korle Klote Municipal Assembly has demolished some illegal structures at Osu Ashinte. The demolition, according to the Municipal Chief Executive Ni Ajay Teria, forms part of government's agenda to make Accra work again and also improve conditions in the national capital. The one-day operation was supervised by the armed policemen and a task force from the assembly. Kwesi Parker Wilson has the rest of the story.
Over 30 to 40 years.
We've been selling here for over 40 years now. Initially, they asked us to move our goods away from the pavement, but now they are demolishing our structures. The authorities were here to tell us that my grandmother started this kinky business and now it's become a family business. We don't understand why they are doing this now. We are asking them to demolish the structures accordingly, but they are destroying some and leaving others. Favoring others will generate dispute among us.
Some of
the traders at Osu Ashanti lamenting over the demolition exercise carried out by the Kolekloti Assembly. A task force set up by the Assembly demolished illegal structures on pavement. According to the victims, the Assembly failed to notify them before the execution of the exercise. The Asafo Chair, Siswafoso III, described the exercise as bad faith.
The MC himself came here with some of his members, came here and told them not to come to the roadside, but all of them should go back. But it seems the exercise which is going on has changed altogether, because what they were told, they were all asked to come to the office. They all went there and they had a discussion with the MC. What the MC told them that they shouldn't come to the road itself, but they should all go back a little. But today what we are saying is different from what the MC told the women who are selling along the roadside.
But the MC for the area, Ni Ajeteria, disagrees. According to him, the traders who had encroached on pavement were given notices ahead of the start of the exercise.
In fact, for Osu Ashanti area, we even planned to go there last Friday. It's just that we couldn't get to that point. They've been giving notice. The traditional authorities are aware. For example, was it Friday or Thursday, the Neman Claro for Osu came here to engage. The assembly members are aware. And like I said, in some cases, they come together, we spend time with them, and then in some cases they are able to get us to give them extra time. So all that has been done. Yes, that is true.
So you agree that you're going to ask them to push their...
We ask them to push.
Yeah, okay.
And those that do not comply, we have to make sure we make sure they comply by removing their structures out of pedestrian walkway. Our kids from school, going to school, walk on the streets, in the middle of the streets now, and that is not good.
The MC also observed that the decongestion exercise will continue unabated. He tells JoyNews the task force will visit areas where traders have mounted illegal structures.
It's not going to be a 91 day?
No, it's not going to be. I can assure it's not going to be.
So tomorrow you are going to hit the street, next week it's in the streets?
Yes, it may not be every day. Okay. Once we've done this period that we are having to do, in some cases, the first time over a period of years, right? After that, once we've done the whole municipality, after that, where they come back onto the street, then we'll go back and clear them.
Now, for many years, a 61-year-old farmer with visual impairment vowed never to beg to survive. He tilled his land tirelessly to put food on his table daily. He had a dream to build a decent house, but he could not afford it. The good news is that after a JoyNews story, a philanthropist surprised Lawrence with a decent house replacing his weak mud house. Jojo Kobina has more in this heartwarming report.
A heartfelt thanks to God for making his dream come true. Lawrence Demebu, a 61-year-old visually impaired farmer, now owns a decent house. He could not find the right words to express his happiness, so he burst into a song. For over 30 years, Lawrence had been working as a farmer. He carefully navigated his farm in Liati in the Afajato South District of the Volta region daily for long hours to put food on his table and many other families. But all he had to show for his hard work was a weak mud house. Lawrence had planned to build a decent house for himself, but he could not afford it. So as proud as he has always been about not begging for anything, he finally caved in and appealed for a decent house. The CEO of KCS, Susanna Kujo, and her friends mobilized funds to put up a one-bedroom self-contained house. Susanna said she could not ignore the appeal from Lawrence when she watched the news.
I was touched that a man who is visually impaired can go to farm on his own and do all this without begging on the roadside. So I asked myself, should there be a storm and the building is even collapsing on him because he's visually impaired, he may not even notice. We went back quickly, we put resources together and we started the project here.
Lawrence's building has a mechanized borehole, a water storage tank. The president of the Afajato Blind Union, Konucho Kafui, thanked all the people who responded to Lawrence's appeal.
Fortunately, last year, Joy FM on multimedia came to our rescue, and we did a story. And as you can see, it's a self-contained, one bedroom self-contained, but we have a borehole also being constructed by a group in UK known as a Novinho Group UK. Yeah, they constructed the borehole, and we also have a stand with a poly tank also being donated to us by a union.
Lawrence finally finds his words and thanked all the people that made his dream come true. Indeed, a truly happy ending.
In the past, where he was living was so dilapidated, the roof was leaking, and there was a lot of cracks. Fortunately today, by his grace, he's entering into a new apartment. So that is why he's happy. We did the story first, or in 2017 we did a story with another station, but nothing really came out of that. And so when we did the second one, he wasn't expecting something huge like this. But today he can see that because of him, people are gathered here.
Jojo Kobna, JoyNews.
A truly heartwarming ending indeed. And as we thank all those who came through after the story was first aired to make Lawrence's dream come through, I do hope that his story, not as in him looking for a house, but the fact that he's blind and hardworking and has vowed never to beg, that would inspire you to move on, no matter what your situation. Stay with me as I bring you the newspaper review. Up next with Joseph Akable. Review Joseph Kofi Frimpong Akable. Good morning.
Hello, Mavi. Good morning.
You're good?
Not bad, not bad. I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well too.
Yeah, I am. I have a question for you, but I mean, if you've put it out there, why do I have to read it? So I'm going to show you something on your own Facebook page, and I'm going to, because I want feedback. So yeah, we'll put the Facebook page on the screen. Do you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Did you find a fixer?
Better today?
Did you find a fixer?
I got multiple fixes, like people calling from all over with various systems. And so, in fact, one of them will be coming in this morning. So yeah,
okay.
But it's based on their advice. I guess it's better today. They gave me some new tip to use this morning, so that's what I'm using now. But they'll be coming in today, and hopefully by the weekend, they should be sorted out. I should have a very reliable internet connection.
You know, you should pay the crew, the AM show team, because we made you test your home internet.
Well, the real payment is for the services that the guys will be coming to render. I don't know whether the AM crew will be willing to support that.
You know, must you argue, must you win every argument? Must you have a point? Just say thank you, AM show.
Thank you, AM show.
I'll disown you, beer. Okay, let's do the papers. Joseph will do the Ghanaian Times, the Daily Guide, and the Finder. I've got the Daily Graphic newspaper, the Daily Dispatch, the Business and Financial Times. Joseph, is that your car?
Say again?
Is that your car?
That's not mine, but it's one of the cars.
Okay, so you know, we have to fix everything of yours. Like, seriously. So I'll do the rest of the papers if we have time. So Joseph, go ahead.
Okay. So I'll start. So I'll just do the front pages. I'll do that of Daily Guide like you indicated.
Do you need a little time to breathe?
Yeah, I just want me too much. I'll start with the front page of Daily Guide this morning. It's a Friday. You're supposed to be kind. I'm Kofi.
I am kind. I am very loving. I'm also Afi.
I know, but you're not being that this morning. Okay, so the front page of the Daily Guide, it has this story about the vetting of Kisia Jabin, and it says corruption will be costly, and Kaka's killers remanded again. It's on the front page, and this other story about the trial of Atuesi, and it says Atuesi challenges open defense order, and no loan for free senior high school also on the front page, and Ghana Gas Board assumes office. It's another story on the front page, and I mean, for those who have followed the news reportage yesterday, Kennedy Ohine Japan, EMP for Asin Central, has been appointed as the chairman of the board of the Ghana Gas. Yeah. The Ghanaian Times now reports, at the vetting of the special prosecutor nominee, I'll be ruthless with all cases, Kisia Jabin pledges, and COVID-19 third wave imminent, the Ghana Health Service speaking. And fight against Galamsey, no ban on small-scale mining, go and do your work, Miracle Duka to miners. And court stops government from collecting mobile phone subscribers' personal data. It's also on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. And the final one for me will be that of the Finder newspaper. The Finder newspaper reports, Kisia Jabin receives unanimous approval after vetting, and accept President's MMDC appointments in good faith. That is coming from Chairman Kangbiri, Chairman Kangbiri speaking there. And cocoa, highest production in history attained, over 1 million tons achieved with 10 weeks to end season. That's some good news. I mean, when the new Cocoa Board CEO, Joseph Eduboyin, and that of the Agri Minister took over, the 1 million tons was a target they wanted to meet, and we have been told that they've not been able to just meet that, they've actually exceeded that target as well. Some other stories here. It says, First Lady commissions First Atlantic Bank's visitors launch at Kolebu. It's also on the front page of the Finder Amabi.
All right, let me continue with the Daily Graphic newspaper. On the front page, obviously, the Appointments Committee's work and their endorsements, the banner headline on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Also, 7.62 billion Ghana cedis for free SHS in 5 years, according to the Finance Minister. Finance Minister was in Parliament not only to answer a Blackwest question on the President, the cost of his recent travels, but there are also some crucial questions by Dr. Park and I think James Agalga on the issue of whether or not the government had taken loan to facilitate or, you know, to, this is free SHS, so whether or not they had taken some form of loan to help with the free SHS policy. And the Minister of Finance responded to that. That's the angle in the Daily Graphic newspaper today. If you go to page 16, it says the government has taken no loan to specifically finance the free SHS policy, which has since its inception been financed from the ABFA and the Government of Ghana funding source. That's a direct denial or response to the questions posed. There's also a bit more to what he's had to say with a good breakdown. But there's 7 convicted of WASSCE malpractice. That story is also page 16 in the Daily Graphic newspaper. It says 7 persons made up of 3 students, 2 teachers, and 2 administrators have been convicted of impersonation in the 2020 West Africa Secondary School Certificate Examination by the Agona Swedro Magistrate Courts. One of them received custodial sentence. Joseph, notes this, custodial sentence, while the rest were fined. They included Georgine Danso, Desmond Odro, and David Bauer, all from 2 students of the English Yamanfo Senior High School in the Greater Accra region, who were fined 1,200 Ghana cedis each and barred from taking part in any WASSCE for 3 years. Others were Osman Ahmed, an administrator at the Central High School at Agona Swedro, and Clement Safo, also a staff of the same school, both of whom were fined 1,200 Ghana cedis each, and Cedric Sefa, a champong, a teacher at Central High School, who was also fined 2,400 Ghana cedis. So a teacher at English, a man from Senior High School, Richard Nkrumah, alias Emperor, who doubles as the assistant headmaster of Central High School, was sentenced to 6 months imprisonment. And according to the story, initially they pleaded not guilty to the charges of impersonation and abetment to commit crime with impersonation, but they were found guilty at the end of the trial and accordingly sentenced by the court on Wednesday, July 21, 2021. So before passing judgment, the magistrate, Mr. Isaac Apietu, said what the convicts did was wrong and that their conviction was to serve as a deterrent to others who might plan engaging in similar acts. I was just curious about the person who was given the custodial sentence. That's why I said Joseph noted down.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that is quite interesting. What I don't hear from the story is the charges. Did you read through that the charges that were leveled against them?
This is impersonation and abetment to commit crime. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I guess that explains why they were given those.
We should get the full judgments. I guess that would do a better explanation beyond the newspaper reports.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so 7, but this is serious. This is very serious. Very serious to think that people, and my understanding is they may have traveled to Agona Swedro in this case to sit the exam in the name of some other persons apart from themselves.
It's something that happens a lot. I mean, over the period, we hear WAEC arrest people all the time for such an offense. And I mean, a lot of the time, there are no matters that are followed through in terms of the prosecution bits of it. I mean, but this is just one angle of the whole exam fraud issue. There's the bit about those who have now become cartels who are involved in the sale of what students would popularly call as Apple. There are those who have sources high up. They get their papers and, I mean, they sell them all over. And these days, I mean, quite recently, WAEC did indicate that there are people who are using various websites where they are uploading things and taking monies from people and putting all of those things out there. I mean, it's a whole chain of business that seeks to help students who don't want to learn or study and pass through the appropriate means.
Absolutely. Well, the judge said this is to send a message, and I hope that anybody watching who's got intentions, or sometimes you're tempted because you're sharp and people want to contact you and make you a deal so you can sit for an exam for them. Well, be warned. You've been told. The message has been sent. In the center spread, the Chief Justice Kwesi Enim Yeboah has entreated auctioneers to be mindful that they do not have an implied authority to conclude a sale through private negotiation without recourse to the court. So we've got a law. It's the auction sales law. And according to the law, auctioneers could undertake such private sales only in cases where the vendor accepted a purchaser introduced by the auctioneer subject to the leave of the court. Very technical, isn't it? You've got to read the rest of the story to get a good understanding if this is your area of business. And then the Ghana Revenue Authority is developing a tracking system to monitor the activities of betting and media streaming platforms for the purpose of tax collection. Now, after sending that letter to the daughter of the pastor after she got a supposed faith, now we know it's faith, dummy check of $1 million. Now we know that the GRA, Charlie, they've got a lot of powers to do many other things. So they're trying to get the betting people as well and trying to track their streaming work. There's a lot of money that they can get, you know, if they begin to be very digitalize their work as well. And it's good that they are on this move. So we wish the GRA well. If you've got tips, you can also send it to the GRA. If you know some very rich people who you think are not paying taxes, just give them a hint and let them follow up. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, also owing to the surge in COVID-19 cases, much of this year's Pan-African Historical Theatre Festival, that's PANAFest, and the Emancipation Day celebrations will be held virtually to prevent the spread of COVID-19. On the back page, Abu Jinapo supports farmers around Mole Park after elephants destroyed their farms. Is also another story. There's a story that's been brewing. I'm not sure I've seen it, but I spotted it somewhere about some people who had rejected some salad packages in Damongo. There's a new maternity block being constructed for the Confirmatory Teaching Hospital in Kumasi. And according to the report on the back page of the Daily Graphic, it is progressing after it's been established that an uncompleted one abandoned for 45 years had become weak. That's it for the Daily Graphic newspaper. Let's do the Daily Dispatch. And on the front page of the Dispatch, Accra is one of the top 100 world's greatest places lists, according to the Time magazine. It's an insult to call Ghanaian traders opportunists. That's Guta to the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Babin, and Dampare's appointment sends a good signal. This is Professor Kosienin's conversation with Evans Mensah on PM Express. That's found, that story is on myjournline.com. Some papers have picked on the story because of the analysis that Professor Enin gave on the show. So that's it for the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Let's quickly look through the Daily Statesman newspaper. On the front page, Kudalo says Dampare will succeed as IGP. And I'm my own man. Special prosecutor says he won't walk in Amidu's shoes. This is the Ghana Statistical Service urging citizens to cooperate with census enumerators. Ghana faces ban on export of fish is also another story. Accompanying it is a picture of the Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, Mavis Hawa Kumsin. It was surprising when Professor Samuel Kobina Enim appeared on our show and said that there are people who would tell the enumerators that they didn't want to be part of the exercise. Like, why would anybody want to say that? But apparently there are people who are bold enough to tell enumerators that they are not interested in what is happening. For as long as you're part of the country, it's your responsibility to be part of this national exercise. Let's do the Business and Financial Times. On the front page, medical drones crucial for fight against COVID-19 in Africa. That's according to the Zipline country manager. Also, IMF backs Bank of Ghana to keep policy rate tight over inflation scare. AHH sign on to Farm Access Safe Care to improve health services. You might want to find out what that is all about. GCB Bank present 14 million Ghana cedis dividend to governments. All right. Last paper is the Ghanaian Publisher. On the front page of the Ghanaian Publisher, I have Nane's support to fight corruption. Different angles of Kisi Ejapeng's answers as he was questioned yesterday before the Appointments Committee. And then BISU petitions NPP over Anas expose is one that I want to share a bit of it with you. Stories on page 2. It says, a former secretary of the Interministerial Committee on Small-Scale Mining, Charles Bisu has petitioned the ruling NPP over the Anas Aremeyaw Anas expose that led to his exit from office. Although details of the petition is not readily available, sources say the petition, among other things, explains the circumstances leading to his recording by someone who had sought to compromise his fight against corruption. He had argued that he was set up by a team member and he had sacked for corruption. According to him, one Francis Owusu Echampong, who was introduced to him by former Science and Environment Minister Professor Frimpong Boateng, set him up because he had refused to accede to his constant request to engage in illegal mining. So there's a quote of exactly what he said in that statement. That's included in the story in the paper. And then a bit about Mavis Kumsin, Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, says the ministry is poised to combat and eliminate the use of illegal methods for fishing. How? You have to read the rest of the story. Okay, so quite a number of stories in the newspapers. I think I said the last, but I've just noticed that I haven't gone through Republic Press. So let's quickly do Republic Press on the front page of Republic Press. I am my own man, Kisia Jabin declares as he rejects Amidu big shoes. On COVID-19, we can no longer take things for granted. This is director of WAPIP saying, no show, Ekufuado's Eastern Regional Hospital projects abandoned a year after sword cutting. This is a story that I'll do a little bit of. And then chief vows to cane loitering girls to stop teenage pregnancy menace. That's also another story on page 8. Chief vows to cane loitering girls. Is that allowed? On page 3, though.
Definitely not.
The no-show. It's a section of Ghanaians are beginning to question the trust's... okay, not sure what the word is. Of the ruling New Patriotic Party for its failure, failing to honor some of its monumental promises made in the lead-up to the 2016 and 2020 elections, respectively. It will be recalled that on the 22nd of July, 2020, the president cut sword for the commencement of construction of phase 1 of the new 600-bed Eastern Regional Hospital project, which was supposed to be completed in 36 months. Yesterday marked exactly a year since that sword-cutting ceremony was held, but no foundation or single block has been laid as evidence of intention to commence work on site. So this is just a follow-up to a project that I guess there was a lot of ceremonial activities surrounding it. Paper did a follow-up and nothing, we understand, is on the ground that suggests that there is a project which will take 36 months to complete. I'm sure government will respond to this report. Just a bit about the caning, and I can't seem to find page 8 because they say the story is on page 8. Okay, let's see. It's in page 7, so maybe I can, yeah. There it is. Where's the story? Yeah, Samuel, the story is not on page 8 as advertised. So Joseph, if you have a pick, I'll take my time to look through Republic Press to see what the story of the chief...
And I think the story about the completion of the hospitals is a problem that cuts across the country. In fact, in terms of, it's been a little over a year since the announcement itself was made. And it was at the height of the pandemic when the nation was told that some 88 hospitals will be built across the country. Later on, the budget that came in indicated that it's now Agenda 111. I mean, 111 hospitals. But that is not what is really happening. I mean, I think for all intents and purposes, it leaves everyone with no choice but to ask questions anytime a politician makes promises. Because when a promise is that, Mama, look, in 2 days' time, I'm going to buy you a car, I don't think it means that in 2 days' time, I'm going to look for where to buy the car from. We've been told that what they are trying to do now is to try and identify land. There are issues with land and all those things. And I'm asking a question that, how did we even arrive at a quantity of 88 if we do not have lands? Because obviously, when you want to build houses, what you'll be looking for first is land. Because what if there's even no land for us to build 88 hospitals? Means the state will have to compulsory acquire certain lands. And so what it does.
Joseph, you need that person to work on that internet ASAP, because as it is, the tips they give you, it's not working. Work for maybe some 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Yeah, I see that you're back.
I think when I'm firing, then it cuts me off.
Okay, so don't fire. Go ahead.
So as I was saying, so I'm saying that, I mean, next time when politicians make promises, we would have to, I mean, pay attention to the specific promise and ask questions, because we realize that when we take them by their word, they come and say that, oh, we didn't mean what we were saying, or there's something else that we have to do to make the promise possible. But it's very clever to say that in 1 year you will complete 88 hospitals.
Yeah. And the anniversary is here, nothing on the ground, particularly with this.
You said not a single block has been laid.
Yeah.
The last time we asked the information ministry, we were told that when they say a project has started, it doesn't mean that they are laying blocks. It means you are doing feasibility studies, you are doing this, you are awarding contracts, you are doing this, you are clearing sites, you are doing this and that. But the point really is that the completion was supposed to be, it's supposed to be a buffer when we had the COVID-19 pandemic, when we were at the height of it. It was supposed to relieve the various health facilities that we had.
Well, so 36 months, so it's been 12, right? So take 12 out of 36. You know, maybe after all the visibility and everything, all the studies is done, we would use the rest of the months to actually put up the structure. You know?
Well,
yeah. So we've got 24 months to go, isn't it?
Yeah, 24 months.
I'm looking at the projects that I worked as an ambassador. I'm still an ambassador. Hopefully we would start the next phase, which is the private sector fund that constructed the treatment and isolation center, the one in Kwabenya. And it took just a very short period to do it. I mean, it was in collaboration with the Ghana Armed Forces. So who knows? Maybe the 24 months will be, you know, hitting the ground running.
Well,
so
let's wait and
don't
see.
lose hope.
It's the hope that kills sometimes. Having too much hope.
That's it. Okay, a bit of this story on page 4. Paper said it's on page 8, but you won't find it on page 8. It's on page 4. This is the chiefs and elders of Achim Krodua in the Eastern region are worried about the increasing rates of teenage pregnancy among the youth in the community. This development, according to the chiefs, is as a result of indiscipline among the youth and the failure of the traditional authorities within the area to institute measures to check the behavior of the youth. Speaking at this year's Ohum Festival and the installation of a new God chief in the town, the chief of Achim Krodua, Berima Kwame Enim, said the rate of teenage pregnancy in the town has reached alarming proportions and need immediate intervention to stop the challenge. He said, this is a quote, as I am speaking to you, I can mention at least 8 children in this town who are pregnant and whose ages would not exceed 15, unquote. Quote again, as elders of this town, we need to act fast to avert the situation before it gets out of hand. And I am praying that whilst the elders of this town have taken their seats today, Wednesday, July 21, 2021, and by Friday, we have to take a drastic decision to set up a task force to check this matter, unquote. I'm looking at the place where they said they will whip the girls loitering. There's another quote where he says, now we have an 11-and-a-half-old girl who is pregnant. Others are 12, 13, 14, and 15. And the oldest I can say is only 16 years. In our next meeting, we will set up a task force to ensure that after 8 p.m., all children who are seen loitering in town would have to answer some questions, because in this town, there is a law that funerals must end at 6 p.m. But the neighboring towns, and this policy does not work, unquote. I think I've captured what I was looking for. It's a good thing, Joseph. It's a good thing that the chiefs are keeping their eye on this situation. You can have 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds
those people have been
getting
proud,
pregnant.
actually. No, I mean.
But here's the thing. why is the concentration on the girls and not the people? It is an offense. An 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, 13, 14, 15, they can't give consent. So if you slept with a girl like that, you should be punished. The focus, the girl hasn't done anything wrong. I think that's the message that we need to get.
Exactly. And I mean, at this stage, Nana should be asking those girls who defiled them and getting their names and reporting to the police to ensure that they are prosecuted. That should be the starting point, instead of Nana seeking to stop the poor girls from going around and walking around in the evening. A lot of people loiter around in the evening, sometimes not because they want to go and get defiled. I mean, unless Nana is assuming that he has reason to believe that all of that defilement happens in the evening. I mean, and so yet again, I mean, it's a patriarchal thing. It's a patriarchal thing. We're always focusing on the weaker one, who really is the victim, actually, not the predator. The predators are there. In fact, the story no aspect of the story makes reference to those who are actually defiling the children. Not even a single line.
Yeah, I agree with you. But again, maybe because it's a newspaper report, obviously they couldn't capture everything that Nana said. But we just want to draw Nana and the elders of this particular area your attention. It is a crime for any person, whether boy or man, to sleep with somebody the age that you're describing. You talk about an 11-year-old who is pregnant. Somebody defiled her, and that person should be punished. That person should be punished. And I think we need to concentrate on that fact. We need to get the fact right. She didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't matter if she was walking around after 8 p.m. It doesn't matter what she was wearing. What matters is the fact that somebody perpetrated that act, and that act is criminal. And you must find the person and send the person to the police station. So hopefully, Joseph, what we have done will also add on to what they intend doing in that area. But it's certainly good that elders of a town are keeping their eye on a situation that is brewing. All right, let's spend the rest of the time that we have on myjoyonline.com. Here we go. Anti-LGBTQ plus bill. Corporate sympathizers could face 10-year jail term. Social media react. Joseph, I haven't been following the story much. What is it?
It's the draft bill, the one that is put together by Sam George and his colleagues that seeks to criminalize advocacy for LGBT rights. I mean, so the draft bill came out yesterday, and I actually have a copy of it, and it's on social media, and people, it seeks to criminalize even persons it describes as allies, and seeks to make some changes to the Act 29 among others. And so a lot of the pro-rights groups and pro-right individuals on social media are not very enthused about it, and they've described it in various words. They call it a hate bill, among all those things. I mean, but I think this is a bill that is very controversial, and because of the timing and where the world generally stands and shifting towards on some of these issues. And so I really look forward to the parliamentary debate on this particular matter. And the good thing about this bill is it's a private member's bill, so you can't pin it on government. It's a pure parliamentary business, and it also has the support of MPs on both sides. And so there are NDC members part of it, there are MPP members part of it, and so the partisan element is also out of it now. And so it becomes a pure debate on principles and whether this is good law that should be passed. And so I really look forward to the discussions in Parliament, and I hope that all the deliberations will be in a public manner, the voting for the approvals and everything. It will be good to know where my MP, for instance, will be voting on this particular matter, and it will inform what I decide to do with my vote for that MP in subsequent elections. But that's why it's been trending on social media.
Okay, but here's the thing. If something is happening in Parliament and you fight on social media, you might actually not end up contributing anything to what's happening in Parliament. So people can actually send petitions and their concerns to Parliament. I think that would be more helpful.
Absolutely.
If you miss the vetting of Kesia Jabin, well, myjoyonline.com has done a fantastic job. For instance, it is here, 6 things we learned from Kesia Jabin's vetting. There's a good breakdown of all the various angles. You can just catch up. But we will also have a conversation on other people's verdicts, especially those in the anti-corruption fight. Ministry of Education fights of claims. It's misapplied 19 million Ghana cedis allocated to free SHS secretariats. If you want to harvest crops move beyond words, Manasseh to Ekufuado on press freedom. A man 51 arrested for defiling a 5-year-old girl. You see, this is what we're talking about. This is exactly what we're talking about. It's not a 5-year-old girl who did anything. In this story, we're told, was it her grandmother or her mother who had sent her to do a follow-up and on a debt issue? And then she was keeping too long. So she decided to follow up. Grandmother decides to follow up, and that's when she actually spots what was happening. This shameful 51-year-old on top of a 5-year-old. Abba. You know, that's what it should be. The focus is the 51-year-old grown man who decided to do this to a little 5-year-old. That person is the one who is supposed to be punished and shamed if indeed he's found guilty in the end. So there are plenty of stories on myjoyonline.com. Joseph, before you wrap up.
I mean, I think the Kiseja Bin stories too quite interesting. I watched the vetting yesterday, and I must say that I was greatly disappointed in the questions that were asked.
You were waiting for Muntaka.
Except for Muntaka, obviously. And I think Alasa Suhini too did a fairly good job. And I mean, someone was asking, where is Damfa? Do you know where Damfa is located? I mean, why do I care about where Damfa is located?
What has that got to do with special prosecutor?
Absolutely.
But listen, I think that sometimes they also want these light moments in the interview.
It becomes a problem when the entire vetting fails to focus on areas. And I think the chunk of the vetting of a special prosecutor nominee should focus on what he's coming to do about the office. What is the new approach? What is the new strategy? How is he going to fight issues of money laundering? How is he going? All those corruption-related offenses. And I didn't think we got much. The only thing we got from him on that was to use the Anas principle. Even that, there should have been direct questions. Are you going to be working closely with Anas? Which other investigative journalists are you looking out working for? Are you going to be doing sting operations in public offices? Which, like, all those are. I thought I didn't get enough responses from him on the specifics of what he intends to do, rather than his past life, than the theory. And this is what embarrassed me the most. And I'm surprised Parliament did this. Parliament passes a law, the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act. They are vetting an Office of a Special Prosecutor nominee, and they are having discussions with him about lapses in the law. The law that you passed. That is embarrassing. And the guy is saying, look, you have to clean this up. You have to do this. I'm wondering why they were having that discussion. You passed the law.
Well, listen, we still have a long way to go, don't we? But Joseph, we'll have to leave it here. Let's see what happens, especially when I feel you, man. I mean, I felt the same. At some point, I stopped listening, especially when this is not the first person to occupy the office. So we actually even have somebody who's been there, and we have a lot of things that he wasn't able to do. And we were expecting a lot of follow-up questions on how we intend to fix it. I mean, as it is, we don't even have a proper structure, do we? But that is what we got. And it is too late now because he's received unanimous recommendation. We'll see what happens on the floor of Parliament itself.
Well, you'll be approved completely. I'm not surprised. I mean, it was a family and friends chat, if you listen closely. I mean, the atmosphere. The atmosphere. I mean, these are people he's taught and everything. It was a very friendly conversation they had. I mean, asked very friendly questions, laugh around and finish, and they closed and approved him unanimously. Yeah. I mean, he's very competent. I'm not rubbishing his competence.
I feel you. At the bar. Yeah.
And I know a lot of my colleagues. He taught them, and they tell me he's a brilliant criminal law lecturer. I mean, so that is certainly not in doubt. We just wanted to hear more of the specifics of. And the thing about law lecturers is that, I mean, the theories are at their fingertips always.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that low point, though, Joseph Akable, go ahead and have a fantastic weekend. Yeah. We'll see you, God willing, on Monday. That's my colleague, Joseph Akable. He's usually a court correspondent. So you see, when he's watching a vetting of a special prosecutor, he's looking for a whole lot more than family and friends. Stay with us. We've got sports coming up right after this.
Let's move to some Paralympic stories, and the National Paralympic Committee will take 18 athletes to this year's Tokyo Paralympic Games, which comes off between August 24 and September 5. Team Ghana is expected to begin pre-tournament campaign in Awashiro, Japan, but the Ministry of Finance is yet to release funds for Ghana's participation at the Para Games. Here is President of the National Paralympic Committee, Samson Dean.
Ghana is going to Tokyo to market the brand Ghana. Even if it is one athlete, we are also there. We should encourage to educate corporate Ghana to come to the aid of Paralympic sports. Give us the sponsorship. The government too should release funds in time, because I don't know if they have already informed you. As we speak, we are yet to receive a penny to participate at the games. We know the effort the minister and his team are doing to make sure funds are released. But please, the money doesn't come from the coffers of the ministry, but rather the Ministry of Finance must release the funds. Releasing it, you're just typing the document. You're releasing. But say, yes, can we talk accounts room ministry or and don't might take it 2 weeks. So be a say paper be na be. Omo releases kind of from Kugumleta no my encratasem. It is Sremo Munko na miniano Munko Pusina Moma Yenya Sikana in time. Because and none of pay Semu Husamoba and we were having a meeting with Tokyo. Because of this last minute things that we do, because the power is not in our hands. We are only managing the Paralympic sport for you, Ghanaians, not for us. We are only doing it for and on behalf of Ghanaians. If Ghana doesn't make things work easier for us, we are going to face serious difficulty as cycling are ready to go to Egypt to go and have about 10 or 15 days training camp. We are going to have serious challenge if they don't get to go to Egypt. We need to send an advance team led by the chef de mission to be in Tokyo to make sure that grounds arrangements are well done. If the funds are not released in time, we'll have a challenge. If by the close of today, the contingent of Ghana to participate, the Ghana's delegation is not sent to Tokyo, we are going to have serious challenges. The serious challenges is that it's possible, if we don't submit it today, it's possible that we are going to wait for another 1 week, meaning our training program is going to be affected.
On to boxing, a new president of the Ghana Boxing Authority, Abraham Kote-Nikwe, wants to have an inclusive team with heavy focus on the youth. Nikwe will lead Ghana Boxing Authority as its president for the next 4 years. This comes after he polled 54 votes to beat Dr. Henry Manley Spain, who polled 46 votes at the Mulder Conference Hall of the Trust Sports Emporium here in Accra.
The message was simple. The people look at the time and the passion for the sport. You see, if you don't have time, you can't do boxing. So they look at my time. I told them, you know, my own son is a boxer. He's a juvenile boxer. So they realize that I'm part of boxing too much. So if they look at my passion and the time I have for them, you know, it convinced them. And I also brought a lot of things on board. You know, I'm supposed to come to your show, and I'll come this time. You see, because I have a lot of projects that I want to do. I told the coaches I'm going to introduce the pension scheme and then the social security thing and then the insurance to the boxers and other things. So I know it went down well with them, with my message, and then they are making the decision. My vision that Manley Spain should be in my board. I will also consult Peter Zwanis, Moses Fuamweni, and then Samer Captain on most of the decisions. But I'll be happy to have Manley Spain on my board because it's a very key in boxing. You know, I wouldn't like to go if in case like I lost this. I wouldn't be happy to leave the sports. And the same thing, I just want we'll talk to him and. You know, for now, I'm a politician. He's also a politician. For now, you know, you wait for some time and then you approach the man
because it's a good product, yes.
Outgoing president of the Ghana Boxing Authority, Peter Zwenes, expects the newly elected officers to work as a team and to ensure that Ghana produces more boxing world champions.
Well, I feel that I've, by and large, stabilized the ripples in the association, you know. Practically, all those who served with me during the second term were part of the first term. And I think we've gotten on as family. And practically all those who are contesting now were part of my executive. So it tells you that we have made much progress. We have worked together. And I believe that those who take over from me will carry on the little success that we have chalked over the years. I can give an assurance about the cohesion that they'll work with, because these are people who over the years have worked in my team, and we've gotten on very well. So I believe that if you're talking about some stability and cohesion, you'll definitely get that. And also I believe that just like any other group of people, their basic agenda will be to produce more world champions. And it's my hope and prayer that that will happen very soon, because we have, the talents are there. Of course, Isaac Dogwe and Richard Comey are fighting to take back world titles. Emmanuel Tego is on the sidelines waiting to have a shot. There are young ones there. Emmanuel Plange is coming up for a world title shot. So I believe that all things being equal, we should be able to go back to where we belong.
Some athletics now, and the former executive member of the Ghana Athletics Association, Prince Worth Anani Asare, wants the athletics governing body to lift the indefinite ban imposed on Martha Bisa. The GAA called Martha and the team to render an unqualified apology to leaders of the association for accusing them of making financial demands before granting a scholarship abroad. But Prince Worth says she owes no one an apology for speaking the truth.
Let's digress a little or divert a little to doping. If you dope, you are banned, but you have time frame to come back. Right? Now, there's nothing and there's nowhere in the Constitution that matter should have been banned. The whole issue started when His Excellency, the former president, President Mahama, handed the brown envelope to Martha. In the process of doing, Jodu collected it and dropped it. And then after the whole thing, the video is there. It's there. And the whole thing, the mother asked Martha, where is the money? Because the mother and the father were present. Where is the money? He said he hasn't got it. Then he asked the coach, Isaac Lamte, where is the money? Coach Lamte says, I don't have it. So the mother herself went inside there and confronted, I think, the Secretary General, Apokavi, and collected that money and came out. And that was it. That was it. Others, I don't want to accuse, but we don't want to know. But the truth of the matter is that there's nothing that Martha has done. They say Martha should apologize. Martha should do this. Martha refuse scholarship. Martha refuse this. They are all not true. I'm telling you, they are not true. If they are true, let them come out with their facts. That's what we are saying. They should leave Martha alone. By now, Martha should have been in the Olympics. And maybe, God willing, we would have gotten another gold. And there's a smart thing that they did not observe. That it will have brought reputation to GA for coaching this girl, bringing her through for her to even gain a laurel. But they didn't do that. But instead, envy, greediness, and all these things are happening. It's so sad. I've been a teacher for so many years. When a minor is even being asked or called for even an award, he or she doesn't go alone. Either you go with the parent, the guardian, your teacher, or any responsible person. So it was not wrong for them to have accompanied her at that time to Francis. So why do you, as a professor, ask her, why did you come alone? A minor. This is serious.
really murky waters, that situation involving Martha Bisa and the Ghana Athletics Association. Hopefully, a middle ground will be found. But that's it for your morning dose of sports. Of course, you can read more all through the day at myjoyonline.com/sports. My name is Hans Mensah. Have a lovely day.
All right, on the back of what we've heard and the general vetting, let's speak and try and do a little analysis of this vetting yesterday. Mr. Edem Senanu is an anti-graft campaigner. He joins us, as well as Mr. Yakubu Hadi, Fighter General, Economic Fighters League. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Great. Having followed what happened yesterday with the vetting, Mr. Senanu, I'll start with you. What do you make of generally the type of questions that were put to the nominee? Now we understand that the committee has unanimously approved him.
I think that the questions were appropriate. They were informed by the issues that had come up in the public space prior to this particular vetting. I think that they managed to pick on the key things and put them to him. They didn't treat him with kid gloves, so he had to deal with the various issues, and I think he did so equitably.
What will be your initial comments on that, Mr. Hadi?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I think that I was a bit disappointed when he was going to talk about his strategy for fighting corruption, because he said he was going to make corruption a very costly endeavor. And he was about to say how he's going to do that, as special prosecutor. He mentioned about, he said that he was going to use something he calls pressure for progress. And I was keen to understand exactly what pressure for progress means and how that was going to be used in fighting corruption. And just there and then he was cut short by another question. And I think that didn't really go down well with me. But yeah, so without knowing exactly how he's going to do what he says he's going to do, I don't know if the whole vetting process did achieve for us as Ghanaians what clearly the incoming special prosecutor is going to do, and how he's going to do that, so that we can hold him accountable when in office regarding what the sort of things that he said.
Okay. Mr. Senanu, before the vetting, we had heard how some people had said they know very little in terms of his fight against corruption was. Did you get a sense that that was made clear? Did we get to appreciate some of the things that he had done by way of fighting corruption?
Not from the parts that I listened to, apart from talking about teaching criminal law for 15 years or so, if I remember right. I didn't get a very strong sense of the anti-corruption bit. And yes, that was an important aspect of the questions we had asked prior to this nomination.
So let me just quote something that he had said in response to a question that was put to him. And this is a quote, reading from myjoyonline.com. And he says, "Honorable Chair, I'm not naive to assume that I am coming to stop corruption. There's no way I can stop corruption. God himself will not even acclaim to that. But I am going to make corruption very costly, very, very costly to engage in terms of conflict of interest. I would institute what I call pressure for progress. And in this quest, there's going to be a systematic review of all public agencies and the development of integrity plans. I intend to set up a public corruption perception index to rank public sector agencies against each other to know which institution is performing well and which institution is not doing well in terms of corruption. In that quest, if you are head of an institution and persistently your institution is drawing the short straw in terms of the perception of corruption, from the point of view of experts, from the point of view of business people, you will sit up. So by way of, just this little bit of some of the plans that he intends instituting, what do you make of it, Mr. Sinanu again?
Well, I think it's a good thing. You would call it a public sector league table based on a corruption perception index. And certainly, if you were the chief executive of an entity that's always at the bottom of this league table, you'll be doing everything to come up. And then it would obviously bring up some criteria. They will have to outline specific criteria, which would form tangible areas that each of these entities would have to improve on as they went on. I think it's innovative, but it cannot be done by the Special Prosecutor's Office by itself. It would need a lot of collaboration and stakeholder input for it to work.
And Mr. Hadi, you had talked about a bit of this plan. You said you didn't get enough information going forward, but what do you make of just what he said, what I read by way of the perception, the corruption index that he plans instituting? Remember also that he says that he fully subscribes to the ANAS principle, and he says, I'm going to use it. I've already stated that I'll be engaging investigative journalists in respect to my work if given the nod. I say so because I have intimated that corruption is so secretive and complex, and unless the participants are coming to you to report themselves, it is almost impossible to find out. So he answers a bit of what you were expecting, doesn't he?
Well, corruption perception index. I don't know, but this is not something that is new. It is something that the Ghana Integrity Initiative and the CDD Ghana are already doing. I think every Afrobarometer report, the CDD brings out Ghanaians' perception about public institutions. And there are certain public institutions that have consistently ranked low. The police, the judiciary, the office of the president, parliament, and all these institutions have consistently ranked low in those corruption perception rankings, or if you like, surveys that CDD and Ghana Integrity Initiative have been doing. But there's clearly no change in any of them. people just continue. People read those things. I mean, media highlights, and then they do interviews, and then it's business as usual. So I don't know exactly how this is going to be done. That is going to bring anything different. What special prosecutor has been appointed to do is to prosecute. He shouldn't come and be telling us about corruption perception index as if he's some head of a civil society organization, anti-corruption civil society organization. And it's clearly the reason why I don't see the relevance of the question of track record in fighting corruption. He's not an anti-corruption CSO. He is a prosecutor. The function of the office is to prosecute. And if he has enough legal experience, enough legal knowledge and skills to do the prosecutions and get people to pay back our money and get people to jail for spending our money illegally, then I mean that works. So this pressure to bring his record on fighting corruption doesn't cut it. But just in the same way, it doesn't really say much to me if he's talking about corruption perception index as special prosecutor for public. You know, these things are already being done by Ghana Integrity Initiative and the CDD Ghana. So what is this duplication? There's no need for that. What we need him to come and do is to come and prosecute people who are violating the public purse by stealing our money and chopping it nyafu nyafu. That is what we want special prosecutor to be doing. And it is clear that over the years, prosecutions of corrupt people who have stolen our monies, I mean, Sada is still hanging, Jida is still hanging. We have very many new corruption issues that have gone on in this government over the last 5 years or so, and prosecutions have been abysmal. There's clearly no consequence for stealing the public purse, stealing from the public purse. And that is what gives people the audacity to even steal the money more with impunity.
Okay.
And therefore, a special prosecutor, we expect him to prosecute people and get them to return our money and put them in jail. That is exactly what he's supposed to do. And if he's talking about making corruption costly and risky, I think that this is the only way that he, in his mandate, can make corruption risky and costly.
Okay, well, thanks. Except that before you prosecute, you've got to investigate. So that's also part of his mandate, to investigate.
Yes, I didn't say he shouldn't investigate, but I'm saying that to say you are publishing a corruption perception index, something that is already being done, and it's been done over several years, and the publishing of this has not changed the corruption in those institutions that have consistently ranked low.
Okay,
and you are coming to duplicate it.
Okay.
It means that it doesn't work, and you are coming to duplicate it. So exactly what is going to happen. So investigate, yes, but your mandate is to prosecute.
Okay.
And jail people and collect our money.
All right, point well made. I want us to move on. Mr. Senano, I want to quote something else that he says. You know, he's 43, and he, talks about the fact that by the time he's done, serves his tenure, he would be 50. So he talks about what he would be leaving behind. He says, I want to leave a solidly established office with its administration methodically run. That's the gift I want to give myself on my 50th birthday. What do you make of this?
I think it is good that he's thought through what the personal targets in taking up this office are. And yes, an office that has systems in place and can run, as we say, we need strong institutions, and then we need strong leadership to perform in those institutions. So I think he sets out for himself something that all of us would be ascribing to. And I am hoping that once he gets there, he will add a few more, including an institution that works with other security agencies to get the results that we need. I'd like to point out to Hadi that, look, one of the key elements of the law that sets up the office requires that the person should have proven anti-corruption experience, and it's for good reason. It's a sector where if you've not come and been confronted with the hydra-headed, multifaceted way things happen, you can get intimidated. Even Mr. Amidu at a point then, copped out. And so it's not for nothing that these things have been highlighted. And also, I suspect that he's not just talking about a perception from the citizens saying that this institution, this is my view, but also the comparison within and between institutions. That's a nuance that adds another layer to the comparison. And so if we're using the methodology for the CPI, it would not be exactly the same if you're creating a league table and asking the opinions of respondents. So there's a nuance if you're going to do what he seems to be describing. He probably definitely needs the technical support to get it articulated and done right.
Ms. Hadi, do you want to respond?
Yeah. Well, clearly, I mean, the setup of the office in terms of his mandates is basically the issue of prosecuting corruption cases or issues that have to do with protection of the public purse. So for me, publication of corruption perception index is clearly a non-starter.
Well,
really,
maybe we have to hold it there and see exactly what he does with it, because as it were, he didn't go into details in terms of what strategy he wants to use. So maybe we should wait and see, watch what he does.
Well, I mean, clearly, you see, when we have public of.
Okay, unfortunately, I think the network has gone by there. But Mr. Senano, I want us to talk about what Mr. Amidu couldn't do. I mean, he occupied the office for 3 years. He was quite visible by way of his writings and his pronouncement. First of all, would the expectation be, and I think one of the things that perhaps people also liked about Mr. Amidu was the fact that he could vocalize the shortfalls by way of what he wasn't getting, what the office wasn't getting. Do you have the confidence that we will see that same kind of strategy with this new special prosecutor, if confirmed?
Well, even if we didn't have the confidence, I think that it's something we need to point out to him right at the start. And even though Mr. Amidu would come to us and tell us what was not happening, I think he kind of waited too late in each instance before engaging with the public and stakeholders and letting us know that these are the difficulties in terms of logistics, in terms of human resource. We wouldn't want Mr. Kisi Ajabeng to do that. I think that right from the scratch, he should do a baseline report on the status of the office, its logistics, its human resource, the state of cases that were handled by the former prosecutor, where they stand today, whether preliminary investigation, whether in court, whether being finalized. All of that will give us a certain understanding of where he is taking off from. And he should be much more speedy in giving us reports in terms of, let's say, quarterly updating us that these issues have been addressed or not addressed. Because working together with citizens, men and women of conscience who want to speak up on these things, we'll be able to put pressure where it is required. That ensures that what it takes to deliver is provided to him. So I think that he just needs to learn to adopt a communicative style that brings on board other stakeholders to support the process of delivery.
Mr. Hadi, are you back with us?
Hello?
Okay, yes, Mr. Hadi,
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Would you also want to suggest a few things if you had the question that I put to Mr. Senano?
Yes. See, when Martin Amidu was appointed, there was a lot of euphoria, and we issued a press release congratulating him and making certain suggestions. And we said that there was no way he was going to succeed in fighting corruption unless certain systemic issues were dealt with. And part of those systemic issues have to do with the way corruption is handled in terms of even if you look at the class nature of it. And by class nature, I'm talking about how people who steal things like five fingers of cassava, or one goat, or one mobile phone, and get several years in prison. And somebody, by the stroke of a pen, is able to steal millions of Ghana cedis and uses court gymnastics to stay out of prison for years. And finally, the case goes dead. So part of the systemic issues, and probably some of these do not lie within the mandate of the SP alone, because they may be systemic issues that go beyond just his office. But these are critical issues that if you do not strip corruption of its class nature, and precisely because of even the way it is even the way it is talked about and the way it is framed, corruption, embezzlement, and things like that, when in actual fact, all these things are basically just stealing. People steal our money, and then we use all manner of euphemisms to describe how they have done, or to describe what they have done. And these things do not trigger the minds of the people to understand exactly what the people have done and to give their support and moral outrage that is needed to push the people away from doing these kinds of things. So these are systemic issues that have to be tackled for any sort of anti-corruption fight to succeed. Again, if you look at the setup of the office, which at some point also derives some of its powers and authority from the office of the Attorney General, or some of its supervisory powers from the office of the Attorney General. That also needs to be looked at, because the office of the Special Prosecutor ought to be very independent. The office of the Attorney General is a partisan political appointment. So if anybody is working under the Attorney General, the person is not going to have all the independence that he or she needs in order to do the kinds of work that the Special Prosecutor Office is supposed to do, i.e. by prosecuting people who are politically exposed, who go around, stealing our money, even if they are in government. So these are certain issues that we need to look at. And I think that one of the legacies that he can leave as Special Prosecutor is to make sure that some of these systemic issues, even going back to the very mandate of the office, are looked at, are brought back to the table and looked at, so that we can have an office that is capable of doing the prosecutorial work very independently and very effectively and efficiently from what the Attorney General's office has been doing over the years.
Just perhaps maybe finally, Mr. Senano, on this issue. If you look at Mr. Martin Amidu and the Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Damis' relationship, and I guess following on the Woyome issue and, their court appearances, I guess we don't need a storyteller to tell us that the relationship was a bit antagonistic. Here's a new man coming in who seemed to have quite a good relationship with the Attorney General. By the way, some of the Attorney General's powers is what's been lended to this new office. He talks about the fact that they were mates and he's just a year older than him. The fact that they seem to be good together, would that also promote the corruption fights?
Well, yes. I mean, collaboration is always very important in the anti-corruption space. And the general challenges that Mr. Amidu faced in getting collaboration from other agencies when he needed information and otherwise is what also culminated in the lack of traction that we evidenced. And so hopefully it should contribute to better results. However, at the same time, one doesn't want an overlap where that then translates into rubbing shoulders where there are issues that should be taken up. So I think there are advantages, there are also disadvantages. The substantive issue probably is the need to make sure that the Article 88 aspect that brings the SPO under the Attorney General is dealt with. And I think Hadi mentions that. I'm glad he himself raised it at the vetting. What we need to do is that many more stakeholders looking at the need for a constitutional review. This is one of the major plaques that ought to be taken up. And so, yes, there is some advantage, but ideally we should also try and isolate that office completely from being under the Attorney General's department.
As it is now, can we?
No, so we need a constitutional, in fact, in general, a lot of the difficulty we are experiencing can be directly related to the kind of constitution we have at the moment. There is excessive executive influence on other branches of government, and it doesn't allow for independent entities to, stand and hold the checks and balances. So we really, really, like Kenya and other jurisdictions have done, need a revamp or a totally new constitution if we're going to do much more and much better than we have done so far in our democratic experience.
Mr. Hadi, what's your take on the good relationship? There seemed to be some good vibe going on with this new SP and the Attorney General. That should put us in a good place by way of progress.
Well, that's one way to look at it, but there's also the other way, as Mr. Adam has said, because if somebody who is, it's the kind of architecture that we have, the Attorney General typically, because of the political architecture, is unable to prosecute corruption cases that have to do with their own people. The people of the party in government. So clearly, those are things that the special prosecutor, who is not necessarily, or who is supposed not necessarily to be a party person, can handle. But, with a very, with a kind of relationship, cozy relationship, it could facilitate, information sharing and all of that. But it could also be a recipe for deal making and, all manner of shenanigans in terms of sitting on cases and not working on them. So we have to, I think the public would have to keep an eye on both offices and make sure that the difficulty that we have, and I'm glad that Mr. Adam has hinted at it, is a constitution, it's a 1992 constitution. The last time I called it a Sakawa constitution, and he didn't take kindly to that. But that's exactly what it is. Because if you look at it, the sort of architecture it creates does not give power even to the public to do anything after the appointment. And it's basically just about we talk and then we go back and sleep. After a few days, everything goes back to normal. And public officers can do whatever they like within their tenure. So the only thing that we can do is to keep an eye and keep the pressure. But more importantly, we don't have to sleep on the systemic fundamental changes that we need. And what are those systemic and fundamental changes? We need to clip some of the powers of the executive. We need to make sure that other branches of government have power. We need to make sure that the people themselves have power. And in order to reach this stage, we need a totally new constitution that will facilitate the power of the people to hold their elected officials responsible. This 1992 Sagawa Constitution cannot lead us anywhere.
I wanted you to simply call it as it is. It is the 1992 Constitution.
I know.
Well, Mr. Senanu and Yakubu Hadi, thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I guess after the confirmation, we'll carry this forward. Thank you, Mr. Senanu.
And thank you. Thank you, too.
All right, and that's our conversation on the back of the vetting of Mr. Kissia Jabing. He's gotten unanimous approval from the committee that he appeared before yesterday. The entire Parliament House would also take a decision, a final one. We'll see how that goes, and we'll certainly update you. Now, one major project which could open up the change the economic fortunes of the people of the Jirapa municipality and the Upper West region at large is a safari resort, which is under construction at Jirapa. The multi-million-dollar project has a land size of 4 kilometers and upon completion will house over 400 species of animals. Correspondent Rafiq Salam, who visited the site, reports that the project, apart from boosting the tourism industry, will give students the opportunity to learn more about animals.
One of the many projects which management of Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, otherwise known as Jirapa Dubai, is putting up to give a facelift to the hospitality and tourism industries in the Upper West region is the construction of a 4-kilometer safari resort. Work on the project is moving steadily and is already 76% complete. Project manager of Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, Michael Kruger, says the safari resort, when completed, will not only entice tourists to come to the Upper West region, but will be a game changer in the region's development.
Within the safari in itself, you can see we have this artificial lake here, which created an island with an open restaurant where we expect guests to have a feel of nature's environment. In addition to this area, we have fishes in there available for fishing activities, aqua activities. Also, going forward on this project, we have some aqua games that we want to introduce on this, like the jet skiing and whatnot. So yes, the safari aspect is also ongoing, and from what we can all see, we are done about 76% of this project when it comes to safari aspect alone. We are expecting the last batch of animals to be arriving within this quarter, and by the end of this year, that's by the last quarter, we should have a full commissioning on the safari aspect of this project as well.
Several animal species have already been brought to the safari resort, which is still under construction. Some caged and others allowed to move freely, but within the 4 kilometers length fence range. Notable among them are the zebras, ostriches, kangaroos, tortoises, and antelopes. Others are gorillas, peacocks, geese, and ponies. Dams have also been constructed to keep aquatic animals and also serve the drinking needs of other animals. 41-year-old Marcel Peter Tournier, since age 5, had love for animals and manages the safari resort.
I've been working with animals since I was about 5 years old, and I've worked right the way through with snakes all the way to birds, to predators. I've trained animals. I do a lot of movie work with lions, hyenas, wild dogs, cheetahs, stuff like that. I specialize in breeding cheetahs, so I love working with a variety of different animals. And animals are straightforward. They tell you to your face whether they like you or not, so you know exactly where your playing field is with them.
He said some of the animals that will be brought to the safari resort will not only be the best, but the first time seen in either Ghanaian or West African soil. He said by the time the safari resort is open to the public at the end of the year, they will have about 400 different species of animals there.
Well, very simple. The animals are here for a few reasons: for breeding and education, and to attract tourists, to get people in. They can have a nice close look at some of the animals, some of the species that we're bringing in. It's going to be first for Ghana, and we're busy working on a few surprises. We're seeing if we can try and bring those in. That will also be the first for Ghana. So yeah, keep posted.
I'm just coming out from one of 4 night houses constructed for the lions that will be kept at this safari. This is the place that has been first inspected by the Wildlife Division of the Forestry Commission. Marcel Tooney explained how they will manage the 4 lions they intend to bring to the safari resort.
Behind me here, this is the night house facilities. It's divided into 4. So we can split the lions up if we have to. The lions have access to these night houses every single day and every single night. Doors will always be open unless we're inside cleaning. When we're inside cleaning, we train them to come in, we close the doors, and we can safely go in and clean. So the enclosure itself is divided into 2. So if we've got any babies, the male can be split one side, and the female can go out with the babies. And then what we do is when we introduce the females, when we introduce females to the babies, we introduce one at a time. We let them bond with the babies, and when they're ready, we let the male out. And we introduce him to the babies. Otherwise, if it happens too quickly, it can get quite nasty.
Apart from this project, boosting the tourism industry in the Upper West region, it also gives opportunity to students to come around to learn more about animals right here.
By the time, within the next 5 years, we will have the zoo section operational, which will have a variety of different monkey species, all the way through to maras and wallabies and birds and tortoises. And then I want to start introducing a reptiles section also. We can have showcase some of the snakes that we get here in Ghana. Yeah, and then bringing in more of the predator species, wild dogs, hyenas, cheetahs. We're going to set up a cheetah breeding program, which will also be one of the firsts for West Africa and Central Africa. Quite a few different things, quite a few different projects in place.
Despite the huge potential benefit that the region stands to gain from the completion of the safari project and other tourist sites in the region, most tourists and holiday makers are reluctant to come to the region due to the unavailability of commercial flight operations. It is the hope of players in the tourism industry that the dismantling of the 44 masts, which flight operators says is sited on the flight path, will enable commercial flights to resume operations in the region. When that is done, the tourism industry will be well patronized, leading to the total development of the Upper West region. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam, Jirapa.
Well, definitely a good project to keep an eye on. We can't wait for them to finish. But when they do, it should also be such that we Ghanaians can afford to take a tour and to visit and to holiday. But we're definitely looking forward to it. Thanks, Rafiq Salam, for this update. Up next, let's check out what's been brewing from the regions this week. We start from the Greater Accra region, and the focus is Parliament. Quite a number of things happen in Parliament today, with the Finance Minister, as some newspaper headlines put it, swerved Parliament. He was hauled before Parliament to answer the question on the President's travels, his last international travel, I think, the cost of that. But we all know what the answer that he gave. But I think the focus had been that, but he was also there to answer some questions on the free SHS. Other issues happening in Parliament. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins me as we do a quick recap. Joseph, good morning. Yesterday was the vetting. We know that the committee has given a unanimous approval. When is the House itself going to talk about it?
Mavi, good morning to you. So we're expecting that sometime next week, most likely from Tuesday next week, the report of the committee will be ready. What is clear is that there is virtually no controversy. MPs on both the NDC side and the MPP side were impressed with the kind of responses he gave to the questions that were asked him. We heard from Mr. James Agalga, the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, who is also a member of the Appointment Committee yesterday, make the point that he thought that the Special Prosecutor nominee really did show that he knew what he was about and he was clear in his mind on what kind of programs he wanted to roll out when eventually he has the position. And so there is absolutely no controversy. The expectation is that most likely over the weekend, and right from yesterday up until Monday, the committee would put together its reports. Maybe on Tuesday or Wednesday, it will be laid on the floor. And then the House would go ahead and approve him, after which the President would have to swear him in to take over.
But the House has also been quite busy this week. Talk us through what's been happening.
A number of items. You rightly mentioned the expected appearance of the Finance Minister, Kenneth Oriatta, which happened eventually on Wednesday. That specific question was actually scheduled on the 17th of June for the Finance Minister to come respond to questions on how much it costs the Ghanaian taxpayer as far as the President's last foreign trip in May to Belgium, France, and South Africa is concerned. Repeatedly, it had been rescheduled. It got missing from the other paper and the plan of business at the point in time. And then last week, Friday, we got the notification that the Finance Minister would come respond to the question on Wednesday. So everyone was very much expectant, only for him to come tell us that issues of the President's travel are national security issues. And so it's the National Security Minister who should be responding to them. So we eventually saw that members on the NDC side were obviously unhappy with the development. The majority side defended it. The Deputy Leader, Penyo Markins, addressed the media briefing in Parliament House, insisting that he thinks his colleagues on the MPP side are only playing, his colleagues on the NDC side are only playing mischief with their insistence that the minister should have responded to the questions. And so we gather that an urgent question has been filed by Mr. Blackwell, directed at the National Security Minister. So we're waiting for him to come respond to those questions. But the Finance Minister responded to questions having to do with the free senior high school program, as you rightly mentioned, Mamabi. He responded to a question having to do with how much loans had actually been taken to support the free SHS scheme. And just to give you a brief highlight of the response that Kenneth Oriatta gave to that particular question, he made the point that when you look at the budget, government has not taken any loan to finance the free senior high school program, although the minority has since disputed that. He made the point that the free SHS policy has since its operation been financed by government of Ghana over the last 5 years. It's cost the taxpayer 7.6 billion Ghana cedis. Out of the amount, 4 billion plus was actually sourced from the government of Ghana, and then a balance of 3.4 billion was sourced from the ABFA, which is the annual budget funding amount that comes from all proceeds. That was the explanation that he gave. Now, the minority is actually challenging this claim. The ranking member on the Finance Committee, Kesela Toforsen, has been sharing details of some documents that actually came to Parliament that got approved by the House when government went for the 2020 Eurobond, which Parliament approved. And the Eurobond is essentially money that government gets on the international market on annual basis. And so that which came for approval in the year 2020, and I'm quoting that document to you, Mamavi, it was an amount of 5.7 billion Ghana cedis that government was raising on the international market. And if you look at the breakdown, there's an amount of 2.029 billion that's actually going into financing free SHS. And then the other listed portions about road infrastructure, around 400 million, 1.2 billion, also going into other investment, 150 million going into one district, one factory. So the minority has really challenged that bit of the Finance Minister's claim, but the Finance Minister has stood by his figure. So those have been some of the developments. We're expecting that we would get a confirmation today that the Finance Minister will present the media budget review statement that next week, Thursday. That's also going to happen in the House. And the committee that has been probing the contracts with the Russians for the Sputnik vaccines, that committee has also been sitting in the course of the week. They've actually wrapped up their public hearings, and we're expecting that latest by a week today, their reports will be ready for the plenary.
There was the issue of the reports on, what the health minister, but Joseph, just stay right there. I'll come back to it because Sputnik V and what the health minister had to say was also very topical. Indeed, we're still talking about it. But let me just cross over to the Ashanti region, to Kumasi, Ohiming Terrier is on our security desk, and he's been following up on Ejura. Indeed, there was a forum held and at the invitation of the chief of Ejura, and Ohiming was there for us. So, Ohiming, good morning. Let's talk about what's been topical. I remember on top of my head that you were in Ejura. So what took you there and what did you find?
Thank you, Mama V. It was actually a community engagement event organized by the traditional authority under the leadership of Ejura Hine Nana Osei Hwedie II. It came aftermath of the Ejura disturbances that actually led to the killing of 2 people and 4 others also sustaining gunshot injuries. So the event was to bring all the people involved in the Ejura community as far as the clashes are concerned. Those participants included the bereaved and affected families in the Ejura, and they also had the Zongo chiefs and then authorities present. Police were there and the military as well as National Commission on Civic Education. And the invitation was also extended to the Ejura community. So it was an entire gathering for all the people who matter as far as the Ejura disturbances were concerned to be present and share ideas. But at the end of the day, what I picked from speakers after speaker was the fact that the community need to live in peace and harmony. And also the youth were admonished not to resort to violence in the near future. So the event brought the youth, brought the leadership of the Zongo communities, as well as everybody in Ejura to discuss the way forward as far as the disturbances were concerned. Let's touch on what the Sarichi Zongo, Alhaji Mohammed Suraj Al-Hassan said. He appealed to the youth to exercise restraint in matters of what happened after they buried the late Ibrahim Mohammed, also known as Kaka Macho, and they thought that police were not doing enough to investigate and find the culprits behind the killing of the gentleman. They went on the streets, went on rampage, destroyed some structures in the community, and later clashed with security operatives. So the Sarichi Zongo appealed to the youth to resort to lay down procedures in matters of this nature. They can go to the traditional authorities for their problems to be solved, go to police or exercise restraint and exercise some patience as police work on this issue. And he also expressed, some sort of faith in the committee set up by the Interior Minister to probe the 29th June incident, which led to the killing of 2 people and 4 others also sustaining gunshot injuries. And then in the case of Ejura Hine Nana Osei Hwedie II, he said there was absolute peace in the community, and community was enjoying some level of peace. And he commended the military for good work done. And he said he can vouch that there's peace in Ejura. On the streets, there was peace, and everybody is going about his normal duty. And he also expressed a faith in the committee set up by government, and also expect that government, after listening to the concerns and the pleas of Ejura people, will implement every bit of the recommendations that the committee will come out with. And then he also said preparations are underway for the community to get permanent military detachment. He believes that once the military personnel are there, every hint of a clash or of a riot will be repelled by the military. And he says accommodation space has already been prepared for the military. And he also talked about arrangements for the area to have a divisional police headquarters. And he thinks that once the divisional police headquarters is established in the area, it will go a long way to beef up security, increase the police presence in the area, and ensure that there will be total peace and security in the area, Mama B.
Yeah, in the meantime, Ohiming, when do we know, or have we heard Anything about when that report from the Committee of Inquiry will be out?
For now, it is not clear. I have been speaking to sources close to the committee, but what the sources tell me is that efforts are being made. The report is actually at the preparatory stage. Don't forget, just last week, they brought the 12-day public sitting to an end in Kumasi, where 22 witnesses appeared, and 3 of these witnesses' testimonies were received in camera. So, yes, the committee is working very hard to make its report available to the Interior Minister. But the source tells me it won't be long. It's likely to be available probably next week, early next week or mid next week. So we should expect the committee to prepare and hand over its reports and recommendations to the Interior Minister.
Ohime, I'll come back to you on COVID. Let me wrap up with Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. Joseph, on the Sputnik V, the committee, through its chairman, also had some issues with reportage. But generally, we only just quoted what the health minister has said to the committee.
Well, Mr. Fenyomakin is of the view that the media hasn't been fair to Mr. Ajman Menu. On the 3rd day of sitting that Mr. Ajman Menu showed up, he specifically mentioned Joy FM and one of the media houses as the media houses that haven't been fair to the minister, Mr. Ajman Menu. The points that the minister made about the claim that he wasn't thinking properly when he signed the contract, which he actually said, and then the media eventually reported. That's obviously what he was referring to. But the minister also said a number of things. He admitted that he committed an error when he didn't request for parliamentary approval when it comes to the signing of the contract with Sheikh Maktoum. And he made a number of similar such admissions, but particularly the point about him not thinking properly when he signed the contract is what the chairman was very much not happy about. But yesterday, as he wrapped up, as Mr. Fenyomakin wrapped up the public hearing, he made the point that he thought he had seen a lot of media cooperation, and that it's not as if they were bashing the media, but he just thought that when things go wrong, they needed to point it out as well. So that was the other bit of it. So the committee wrapped up its proceedings yesterday. The health minister himself was the main witness who appeared, and the indication is that they think they have all the answers that they want, so they wouldn't call any additional witnesses apart from Mr. Ajman Menu, the Director of Legal Affairs at the Ministry of Health, as well as Mr. Yusuf, and then the Director of Supply Chain at the Ministry was also invited to testify in the course of the conversation. The Chief Director was also sworn in to give a bit of testimony. So those have been the main individuals who appeared before the committee. And as they wrapped up their public hearing today, Parliament actually gave them up to next week, Friday, which will be the week 3, by when they are supposed to submit their report. And we gather that they've started putting together details of the report. They are determining whether the contract provided the necessary value for money, whether parliamentary approval was actually sought or otherwise, which we've gotten a confirmation for that in one of the contracts, no parliamentary approval was actually sought. They are supposed to also determine whether the price at which Ghana was buying the vaccines was actually the appropriate price, because the ex-factory price of the Sputnik V vaccines is actually at $10.5, but some of these contracts were pegging the figures at $19 and $26. So waiting to see the reports sometime next week, even as the House eventually debates and approves it.
Okay. Joe, you're not leaving yet because there's the LGBTQ plus bill. So let me go to Ohime and then I'll come back to you. Ohime, let's talk about COVID-19. This week started off with the admission that indeed cases have gone up. There was a high-level meeting in Kumasi. Tell us about the outcome of this and what the situation is in the Ashanti region.
Yes, Mama V, COVID-19 has been a raging health issue, and at the peak of it was a meeting. The Ghana Health Service described this as a high-level, top managers meeting. It brought all the regional health directors and all the agencies that have been supporting the Ghana Health Service, including the World Health Organization and some other officials at this important meeting to discuss COVID-19 and the way forward. And at the meeting, the Director General, Dr. Patrick Umar-Boaje, told us, at the press briefing that the Ghana Health Service is concerned with the rising COVID-19 cases in the country. And he attributed the cases or the upsurge in cases to a lot of factors, a number of factors, including the fact that just at the end of last year, in December, when there were Christmas celebrations, people troop into Ghana from other parts of the world. This increased our figures. And then he also mentioned the fact that non-adherence to COVID-19 safety protocols has become the order of the day. Everywhere you go, people don't pay attention to these protocols and have disregarded them to the extent that even those who put on face masks, for instance, are described as, the old people in our society. So he also mentioned the fact that the outbreak of cases in other parts of the country, in the other parts of the West African sub-region, as our neighboring countries, also has contributed to this. And then the introduction of the Delta variant into the country also, is a contributing factor. And he outlined some of the measures that the Ghana Health Service will be implementing to curb the rising COVID-19 cases. For instance, he mentioned the fact that the people who fall sick should not sit at home, but should report them as soon as possible to the health facilities to get tests. And then he also said efforts were being made to strengthen our testing regimes at the entry points, Kotuka and then the other borders. He mentioned the antigen test in that order to ensure that everybody who gets into the country get tested. And then at the sea, you also mentioned there are some fishermen who wants to come into the country via sea. So they come via sea, and then with the support of the fisher folks in these countries, in these communities, he mentioned that all these entry points will be tightened. And there was this fear that the third wave is imminent. Ghana is not far from the third wave. He mentioned that though Ghana has had, some inherent strength in our current health system, the introduction of treatment centers, almost 70 in all the regional capitals. Beyond this, we also have the what he described as the infection disease control center that has been introduced. That is one of the positive feedbacks for the country. But he says we can have all these strong systems in place, but when the people continue to disregard COVID-19 protocols, then we should be in a position to say that COVID-19 third wave is not far from us. And he says all these systems could be, tested if we decide not to pay attention to the COVID-19 safety protocols. He mentioned, especially when I questioned him about what the Ghana Health Service made of the, continued disregard for protocols, especially, in the organization of funerals in the country. And he said, yes, it's been, broken by almost everybody in our facets of society. But he mentioned that, yes, with regard to funeral, the Ghana Health Service wouldn't want to call a total ban on funerals. But he says there's an introduction of a new proposal on how funerals should be organized in the country, something that they've been working on, and very soon that will be made available to Ghanaians. So these are some of the key points that the high-powered, COVID-19 stakeholder meeting in Kumasi discussed. And in Ashanti region, I must say that, yes, the situation is not different in Ashanti region. Everywhere you go, you see few people who want to observe the COVID-19 safety protocols, even in the commercial transport and all that. If you see, let's say 10 people in a commercial vehicle, you are likely to get only 2 people or 1 person in a face mask. and then the rest want to do their own thing. And if you look at the general spread of COVID-19 in the region, then I can say the last count, out of 43 municipal and districts in the Ashanti region, 25 of them have recorded new cases. The last check was as of July 18th. The statistics from the Regional Health Directorate did indicate that the region, as at that time, has recorded not less than 491 COVID-19 confirmed cases. And when you look at this, the Kumasi Metro, Oforikrom municipality, and then Kwadaso municipality have been the driving force for COVID-19 in the Ashanti region. If you look at the last figures, 491, these three areas contribute not less than 57.23% of these figures. So it tells you how these municipal and districts have become the COVID-19 hotspots in Ashanti region.
Ohimi, thanks a lot. I wish I had time to also touch on the fact that the regional minister sent a task force again to bring some order in some schools. Where are we with that matter? Real quick.
Yes, the issue is it also boils down to COVID. It's COVID related because just as the students in senior high schools were preparing to go for midterm break, the Ghana Health Service introduced some arrangements to say that because of the upsurge in COVID cases, the students should stay on campus. And this infuriated some of the students, especially at the St. Louis Senior High School. And then we are told Kumasi Girls Senior High School. And the regional minister has to deploy security to these campuses to forestall law and order. He says the issue that some of the students alleged they were brutalized and assaulted by the security operatives has come to his attention. And so he wants to investigate and find out if indeed these allegations are true. So we are yet to hear from him what has come of this investigation. Okay.
Ohimi, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed with what has been happening in the Ashanti region this week. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, before we leave, there is the LGBTQ plus bill before Parliament. This is a private member's bill, and it's got a lot of people talking on social media. There's been massive reaction. But I said earlier that people will have to bring petitions and their concerns to Parliament. Otherwise, all the noise on social media will not get anywhere. Where are we with this bill?
Actually, the bill is not yet officially before Parliament. So it's a private member's bill that's actually been drafted by 8 members of Parliament, 7 of them on the NDC side, 1 of them on the NPP side, Reverend John Ntimfojo, the MP for Asante South, who is also there, the Deputy Minister for Education. He's the only NPP MP who is part of this, alongside Emmanuel Ejura and Samuel George, who is leading the charge, Helen Ntoso, and a few others. Now, the bill, the Speaker is supposed to make space for the MPs who are pushing for it to lay it officially, introduce it in Parliament, make a case for it, after which then it gets referred to the appropriate committee, most likely the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. Then the committee would come back to the House with a report, then it will go through consideration stage where amendments may be made before then it eventually gets passed. But that process of the Speaker making the space for the bill to be laid on the floor officially has actually not happened yet. Now, what happened about 3 weeks ago was that there was a meeting of the Parliamentary Christian Fellowship. And at that meeting, the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, was there. And the MPs who led the drafting of the bill officially handed over a copy of the bill to Speaker Alban Bagbin. And then at that ceremony, there was the official appending of their various signatures to the bill as part of the ceremony, and then it was handed over to Mr. Bagbin. That is not an official presentation of a bill to the legislative arm of government. That was more like a side event just to make the public aware that this is happening and that is being introduced. So we are now waiting for that formal process where the speaker would allow for the bill to be laid officially on the floor of the House and then it would be put out there. But then, yes, it's generated a lot of controversy if you look at the very details of the bill. And obviously, this helps the fact that the whole nation is having a conversation around it. Most of the times, when bills get introduced, people don't even know how the details are, and then it goes through the House and then it gets passed. And that's when we see the uproar most of the time. But this time around, all the concerns about the fact that if you engage in some of these LGBTQ plus activities, you could be liable on summary conviction to a fine of no less than 750 penalty units and no more than 5,000 penalty units, or a term of imprisonment of no less than 3 years and no more than 5 years, or both. That's been prescribed. Not just that, they make the point that even those who promote or use social media to advocate for it could also be liable to some form of prosecution. So, as you rightly said, eventually, when the House is seized with the bill and the committee is looking at it, the Constitutional Legal Affairs Committee, the committee will officially put out an ad inviting memoranda from ordinary members of the public to make input into the bill. At that point, whatever ideas from members of the public will count in terms of what Parliament will do with it eventually.
Okay, Joe, Parliament is sitting today, are they?
Yes, at 10 a.m. in the forenoon, as they would usually say. It will be there to bring you everything that transpires.
All right, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is our parliamentary correspondent. Thanks, Joe, for all the updates, for the clarity as well on matters. So that's it from the regions. You're now very updated. And so let's bring you some show business. And IB is hosting Ohima Messi today, live here on the show. Please do stay with us.